Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 80th session of the Disciples India Learning Forum. We are very pleased to have with us today Mr. Karthi Madhavan, the country head for TCS Taiwan. Shall we start the session now? Karthi, can you hear me? Can we start the session now?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we would like to start the 80th learning session today. We are very pleased to have Mr. Karthi Madhavan. He is the country head for TCS Taiwan. And warm welcome to all of y'all for this session. The topic over here being the promise of India, a long-awaited champion or a perennial challenger. The short introduction to Mr. Karthi Madhavan. As you all know, he is the country head of TCS Taiwan. He is presently the country head, and he has over 25 years of experience in the business operation management and growth, delivery unit management, people management, and coaching and international businesses in the IT and services sector across various geographies. He has had several key roles and portfolios in his career. Prior to joining Tata Group, he has had work experience with companies like Asian Paints and Mobi Apps, where his special focus was on product development, new product launches in telematics and wireless technologies across India, Europe, and Southeast Asia. He first joined the Tata Group in 2003 when he joined CMC Limited, and he was the regional director based out of California for CMC Americas until 2010. During that time, the business with CMC grew multifold, and he was instrumental in winning and delivering many large IT programs with IT customers across all industry verticals. On his return to India, he worked as the delivery center head and a regional business head in Bangalore till March 2016. Karthi holds a bachelor's degree with distinction in physics from the Madras Christian College and has advanced training in management and negotiations from premier institutes. He and his projects are recipients of many awards, some of which are the President of India Award for the Best Use of IT, Governor's Award for E-Governance, World Bank Award, CSI All India Award for Excellence in IT, and the Asia Pac FT City Urban Ingenuity Awards. Karthi as a person is very passionate about education, and he is an honorary member of the Management Council of Karnataka Industrial Training Institute. He has been invited to speak on many forums on smart city, e-governance programs, and digital technologies, and is actively involved in large-scale transformational IT and social programs. He is an avid sports lover, and he loves golf and horse riding. He enjoys history, books, traveling, and meeting new people. We would like to inform all our guests today that Karthi has joined and come over here on his personal capacity. The views expressed over here are his personal opinion, and yeah. So with this, without any further ado, let us go ahead and start the 80th learning session topic with Mr. Karthi Madhavan today. Let me just pull up the presentation, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Patros, and it's indeed a pleasure talking to all of you. I have a lot of respect for Major Bhargav. He has been a role model for me when I was young. Age doesn't seem to catch up with Major Bhargav at all. I see him, and thank you, sir. You were a role model always and will continue to remain so. So by the time, Patros loads up so I just have so the moment people hear presentations, everybody will switch off. But my request is it's just 5 slides. This presentation is only for me to have some reference points. So it's just basically points. There are no big data points. And this is just it's not going to be prescriptive in nature. This is more of a discussion where these are some thoughts where, as an Indian, as a proud citizen, we all continue to question ourselves in terms of how we can become better in various aspects. So that's the whole premise of this. And as I said, it's not going to be prescriptive, so it's going to be more of thoughts. And once this is over, I would also invite, because this is Disciples India, I can tell you that I am also a disciple. So please do not think that I'm here as a guru trying to teach a disciple, which I'm definitely not. But I think all disciples, the first category of a quality of a guru is for himself to be a disciple always, right? And that is when we all become better. So let's move on. So when Major Bhargav and Shiv Prasad were discussing with me on what topic that we can take on the 75th year of independence, I think this is a good time to take stock of what is the ethos, what is the kind of India that we aspire to be, what's the kind of India that we all want to be a part of, and what is the kind of India that we are, right? And this has always been, especially in the last few decades, we have seen that there is a lot of competition, right? Between not just individuals, between societies, between nations, between civilizations, if I might say. So this is going to always keep this one off. So this is not a race. So do not please take it as a thing of a champion and a challenger being a race, but rather than a place where what is our identity, right? As an identity, are we champions, or as identity, are we challengers? So that's a premise of our mental inquest, I would say. We'll go to the next slide. Patros, can you move to the next slide, please?
Yes, I'll do it.
Yeah. So this is something that I've always believed that champions are not born. Champions are made. Champions are people who just refuse to give up. So this is the premise of our entire approach, what we are going to take. We'll go to the next slide. I'll just give you a heads up of just 4 points, 4 larger points that I would like to touch upon. And you can take notes, or you can think or ask questions on this. I would try to answer my point of view in terms of what I think it is going to be. But we'll keep it to the later. You will understand where I'm going with some of my thoughts. And hopefully this triggers a larger discussion in a meaningful way. So 4 things. So can you go back to the previous one? So we're going to touch upon these 4, business and economy. Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, business, economy, military and defense, society and governance, and ethics and values. This very particularly, I touched upon these 4. There are multiple facets, but I'm trying to bucket it into larger chunks of what a nation is, what a society is, and most of us might have studied political science or might have studied social economics. But a basic institution or a sovereign nation is defined by inherent characteristics of these 4, right? It's very important that you have a defined business and an economy, which is unique in nature. The military and the defense of a particular geographical boundary, which is extremely important as an entity, as a nation. The society and governance of that particular nation defines its character. And of course, the ethics and values is actually what actually keeps going through generations. Okay, so these are the top 4 things that I had in mind. We'll quickly touch upon. There's not going to be a big data points. It's again, as I said, it's just going to be an open discussion of where do we think we are, where have we come from, and where do you think we have to go. We'll go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so last decade or so, most of our, at least I'm sure that the learned group in this forum will be very aware as to our focus on improving our economy, growing our economy, and all that. But just as so forget the numbers. The numbers are numbers. So right now we say we are a 2.53 trillion economy. We want to grow to a 5 trillion economy. We want to go to a 10 trillion economy. These are numbers. Numbers are a little funny. Tomorrow the rupee appreciates or the dollar depreciates or whatever it may be. We can be 5 trillion or 1 trillion depending on a stroke of a pen, right? Or what happens in this one. But what's more important is what is the inherent. So we talk GDP by PPP numbers. I think that is a fair discussion to take. I think something that we have to understand for India is the potential is enormous. Having done business across the world, I can say that there are facets of India which is just completely untouched from a business point of view. I think this is something that as a society, as learned members of this forum, as leaders in your own sphere of influence, I think this is something that I'm not sure that many in India are even aware of this. I'm sure that leaders are aware, very smart people are aware, but I don't know whether as a society we are aware of the tremendous potential that we actually sit upon. So a couple of things here. I'm sure that everybody spoke of IT as IT services has boomed and taken India to places from the time that 92 opening up of the economy happened. That is for everybody to see. But I think we are pretty much limiting ourselves when we say that services. So there is enormous potential in tourism, in financial services, in medical industry, in technology services, in IP. So those are some things that we can look at. Manufacturing, I'm sure that our government and our powers that be have been pushing this very hard. I think this is something that has absolutely phenomenal potential to transform the middle India and can actually percolate. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have seen that the services revolution in India has actually, kind of percolated only to the upper middle class and the socially upper class, where knowledge management services has boomed and it has really helped. But manufacturing is something which can really help the economy altogether across all stratas. Again, I've given some points. You can think through this, go through this. But one very important thing that I wanted to park it here, or for us to think about, is we will touch upon that in the governance part. This is very tightly linked to our education systems. This is something that we have to really think very carefully about, because our manufacturing till now, our value addition of the global in the entire global supply chain where India sits is as a resource provider. Whether in services or in manufacturing, we are kind of a resource provider. So only when we move to a stage of a value adding player in the larger supply chain of the global economy, there will be meaningful progress in GDP and especially GDP per capita. I'll give an example. We export a lot of minerals. We export a lot of raw iron ore. We export a lot of raw resources, right? But in terms of, many of you will already know that we are the largest, our biggest import, our import bill In fact, one of our channel, if you see this, one of the things that I've written here is the Indian rupee as a global currency. Now, this is this is very important to be a champion. A champion country, if you actually look at global powers, they are very, very particular about how their currency is viewed across the globe. Now, this is something that's very, very important for India, that I wish and I dream of a day where Indian rupee actually becomes a globally accepted currency, primarily because our import and export in terms of what we import seems to be value added items, and what we export seems to be raw resources. Of course, IT services and other services being an exception. I think in terms of resources and in manufacturing, we have to turn the tide there. I think that is extremely important to be a champion. I wanted to park this as well in your thinking, that debt management and asset building, this is very, very critical for the way forward. We have been too, I would say, it's again, our foreign exchange reserves are pretty much in a decent position now. It's not something to be worried about. But in terms of how we manage our internal debt and how we build assets, because most of our internal debt that our government owns to our people, right, it's not a strategic problem, because this is our own debt and we owe it to our own people, right? So it's a tactical problem, and people will hold you accountable for it, right? And that might be inflationary in nature, which is understandable. But the major issue is most of this debt goes into revenue servicing rather than capital expenditure. So that is something that we'll have to be very careful about. And as a society, and we will touch upon that in the society and ethos part, I think somewhere there has to be agreement with people, amongst people, that is it important for me to worry about my gulab jamun today, or is it important for me to worry about tomorrow's rice? Now, people come and there is always an argument that we are not asking about a gulab jamun today, I'm asking about rice today, right? So this argument will continue. This argument will continue, but at the same time, these are things that we have to grapple with, and we'll have to look at how we are going to approach this problem. The last one is, of course, the business and technology capital. This is something, and asset monetization. These two things are more from business leaders, and especially people in this forum who are all champions in their own right, and entrepreneurs and executives. My request is, this is something that we have to really, as a society, think through, especially in the business and economy part. That are we going to look at richness, or are we going to look at wealth creation, right? Somewhere down along the lines, we've always focused on building revenue basis, right? Building, which is perfectly understandable. You cannot become wealthy till you become rich. But my only this one is, we should not forget the part that we have to build the wealth, whether it is the intellectual capital wealth, whether it is the asset capital wealth, or whether it is a social capital wealth. I think this is something that we have to be very particular about. We can talk about it in case that later on during our discussions. We'll go to the next slide. Yeah, this is we have seen this. I will touch upon this. This warrior and the gardener is something that I learned some time ago. That it is niceness should not be construed as a weakness. In India, the concept of India, the way the world looks at Indians, I've traveled across the world, Indians are viewed extremely favorably. We are really nice guys, I'll tell you that. everybody knows that they are a very historic civilization. Everybody knows that our value systems are beyond compromise. Everybody understands that you know, we are unique and we play by a moral order, right? We have a moral code of conduct. I would put it that way. And it is irrespective of which government is in play. This is something that has historically come. I don't know, maybe we can have a discussion sometime where, you know, if Major Bhargav thinks of good about it. I think we can have a discussion sometime later about that, as to what comes through our genes, or is it coming through our is it biological in nature, is it cultural in nature? I don't know. But there is something that everybody knows, that India is good. Indians are good guys. But somewhere the construct of that should not become niceness is weakness. So this is something that you know, the warrior and the gardener is, you have a choice. You know, I think it was Bruce Lee or somebody who gave this wise quote. He said, I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right? So we have this romantic idea of you know, everything will be fine, and everybody plays by a moral order that we are by nature we have. I think the world is not what it should be, but world is as it is. It comes as it is, right? I think that is something that we are now getting aware of. So we are seeing a offensive defense capability and a defensive offense, which I have put it that way. I'm sure that there are much brilliant minds even in this forum who are better equipped in especially the military and defense part. But at the global level, it is very important. Even in negotiations, we say that there is a different effect on the economy, on the social governance part, when you come from a position of strength. So I think that we are also evolving. We are a young democracy. We are 75 years old, but as a civilization, we are pretty much up there. In fact, we should be the #1 there, if to show the whole world. So I think this is something that you will see a lot of evolution in the way that we look at our military and defense policy. We are already looking at technology upgradation and asset upgradation. Here again, Make in India, being self-sufficient becomes extremely critical. But this again is tightly linked to the technology capital and the intellectual capital creation of this country. This is extremely important, because you will see that most of our high dependency defense equipment and technologies are imported, which is okay. This is reality of life. But at the same time, this is something that we should be aware of, because we are spending a lot, not only just in terms of spending, but it is a strategic dependency. And I wouldn't say in the world, no country is completely independent. But the more independent we are, the better it is. We have a negotiating stance in our global order. We are already seeing this across the world. The world order is rapidly changing. Indo-Pacific, counterclaims, the string of pearls, different trade routes being formed, cartels being formed. This is going to be a reality in coming. This one's people, because societies, governments, regimes are all fighting for very, very limited resources in the world, and everybody is fighting for one-upmanship. I think the way I had put it here, in terms of allies, partnerships, and networks, this again is the challenger versus the champion conundrum, if I might put it that way. There is a nice, this one that I always say, I would rather trust 4 quarters than 100 pennies, right? So do you want 4 strong friends or do you want 100 weaklings, right? So this is something which is, which has to be strategically understood. It is not that you not being a friend makes me your enemy. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying who is your partner, who is your ally, and are you looking at being popular or are you looking at being strong, right? So this is a question that we have to answer, and it's not an easy answer. Okay, and this is something which will define. I'm very sure of this. We are already seeing that happening. There is a Quad coming. There are military alliances and relationships which are being formed with certain strategic objectives in mind. And I think that you will see a lot of investment in not only in just terms of money and effort, but I think the investment is also more in terms of a long-term thought partnership, right? Free democracies. It's not about saying that, for the next 2 years, we will patrol the seas together. I think you can come to that agreement only if you have a thought partnership, that we believe in the same ideals, we believe in the same principles, we believe in the idea of freedom, we believe in the idea of personal dignity, right? I think that is something that is going to really define the way forward. We'll go to the next slide. Yeah, and this I actually our biggest challenge is actually not external. I think external challenges, India and Indians, we have always overcome. Okay, our challenges are internal in nature in terms of our aspirations and how we want to go about it, because this is the, I wouldn't say the difficulty, but this is the challenge when it comes to open free democracies, because everybody has a voice, right? And the terms of alignment in terms of what is my larger goal, what is my short-term goal, what is my long-term goal, is always up for debates, right? So by the time you move, so I don't know, most of you, whether you've read social philosophy. So there's a this one which says that if I put a point of view, right, so that becomes one point of view. So when Plato says that there is aristocracy, there is oligocracy, there is plutocracy, and then there is democracy. What we talk is, earlier one guy says and he's treated as a wise man, and he says and rest follows, right? But when there is a point of view in a democracy, and that point of view is always debated, and there is a counter point of view which is diametrically opposite to what the first person is saying, and these two are beating each other, and then a third point of view comes out of it, right? So this takes time. So the frustration of the challenger India in terms of being a champion India is this time, that hey, every law that looks so appealing to me personally is bloody taking so much time to go through, because it's so unappealing to somebody else, right? So that frustration is natural, but I think as a society, as people, as leaders, I think somewhere we have to come to an agreement of saying that let us at least get whatever we can get it done faster. Whatever we can agree, let us move. Somewhere I find that, again, this is politics at its best, where some things are held hostage for something else, right? And that is natural in human tendencies and between people, between institutions. But I think a challenger has to understand that if you want to really be champions, it is time that let us agree to disagree. But for what we agree, let us move on, right? I think that is very, very critical. I think that is something that I see, that we would rather delay something. There is no good and bad decisions. Okay, I'll put it this way: there are no good and bad decisions. All decisions are good and bad depending on what time you see it. What looks a good decision today might look very horrible tomorrow. What looks like a bad decision today might look like an excellent and a wise decision tomorrow. So hindsight is always 2020. But my thinking is, there are times it's not about right or wrong decisions. There are times that you have to take a decision, right? You cannot keep arguing till eternity. So I think that is something that has to go. Speed and alacrity of implementation, this is a major cause of worry. A champion is not a guy who has great ideas alone. A champion is a guy who actually implements it. But are the trouble, the wastage, the system, corruption, babugiri, whatever that we call, right? Some unscrupulous people sitting in certain very critical points of the entire social chain, where they come and say, you know what, I can stop you. And that is so frustrating, because we still see that. I will let's just talk common sense. A lot of things, a lot of cost in India, in economy, in education, in laws, a lot of cost is because of delay. But just see, there is a very slimy way that this happens, right? There is no, most of us would know this. There is a service level agreement that we say, right? In business parlance, we say, what is the SLA, right? If I give an application, what is the SLA? How much time will it take to get back? But when it comes to implementation and alacrity of, especially at governance levels, they know that I can delay you. And that frustration, unless and until you grease me. So that is very worrying, because it adds to cost. You cannot have, normally a champion society, a champion business, you cost your efficiency, right? You have to cost your efficiency, and you have to price your innovation. But if you are costing our inefficiency, now we are adding our inefficiency cost into the product, into our every level of our this one. If you keep adding, what happens is it all adds up to tremendous non-value adding cost, which is making us extremely uncompetitive. So it's not that, normally this one is, hey, it's all about, yeah, we get a vote. We don't get to vote our bureaucracy. Please understand, we vote our politicians, and that's what always strikes our face, because that's what is seen. But what's very important is the officers, at every level, they are the key, and that is something that as a society, as a this one, we have to start holding everybody accountable. Holding only the political class accountable has very limited success, right? Unless and until we understand that government servants are actually, taxpayers pay the damn salaries. So but that maybe it's a ethos thing, where you have to say, sir, please help me with that application or this one. That has to somewhere, I think that has to change. There are some key areas which are very, very important for a radical evolution. I'll put it that way. Health, education, law and order, and most importantly, taxations. I think these have to be looked at. Not again, every time we try to correct historical wrongs, and you cannot correct a historical wrong by creating a new wrong, because it will lead to a future wrong. Somewhere we have to understand that these are very important and difficult conversations to have. What kind of indirect taxes is a healthy tax level? What kind of direct taxes are a healthy tax level? Is proportionate taxation okay? Is proportionate taxation not okay? How much is taxation which is okay? How much subsidy is okay? How much non-subsidy is okay? Are we truly socialist in nature, or are we truly capitalistic economy? Right? My heart says we are socialists, but my mind says that we are capitalists. When it comes to government money, we are socialists. When it comes to private money, we are capitalists. Right? These are very difficult questions that, as a society, a champion has to answer. Because this is what will define our, I told you, our currency being a globally accepted currency, our economy being a global economy, has very uncomfortable, real, foundational questions that as a society we have to answer. Because it's not for leaders will take a judgment call in terms of what they believe is good for all of India. And I firmly believe that across all parties, I believe that everybody is a true patriot. There are extremely good people across all parties who really deeply care for the country. But the challenge is not them taking a decision. The challenge is it acceptable as a society? Right? That is something that we have to deeply care about. There is something which is I always tell during my talks in many forums is we have to really wonder, we pride ourselves with everything about rights. Democracy has become everything about rights. I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. I have the right to disagree. I have the right to go and burn a bloody government bus. I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. But your rights are given along with the condition that you have a fundamental duty. See, fundamental rights are fine, but there are duties expected out of a citizen. There are duties expected. If I go and say that I'm the son of my father, and I have a right as a son, I have the right to his money. I have the right to his name, his last name. I have the right to live in his house. All these are fundamental rights as a son. But first I have to behave as a son. I should do the duty as a son to the father. Otherwise, he will say, you know what? I disown you. I think this is something that somewhere, not necessarily media, I think it's also social media, a lot of individual liberties have become more important than collective responsibilities. This is a very difficult, this is a very difficult conversation having, especially with young people. Youngsters, before we go and say, hey, what do you think about this collective responsibility? No. I want to be happy. I think this distinction or this close relation between duties and rights is something that will define again a challenger and a champion mentality. Champions are guys who understand their duties. Champions are guys who do their duty before they talk about their rights. I think this is something that is very deeply a very uncomfortable subject. People have because see, again, I come back to that. People have very, very scarred emotional tie-ups to a lot of rights issues, right? Duties are very uncomfortable talk because there's an expectation out of it. Rights are easier to talk because the expectation is from the other side. You are demanding it. But in a duty, you are supposed to give it. So this becomes a very difficult conversation, but I think as a champion, we have to answer this. Again, each person, every person, and education. So I think we are looking at evolution in education policies and other things, which is a very welcome sign. But rather than creating labor class and education for a job, education today has become all about education means you study and make money. Study and make money. Education ideally is for people to have critical thinking abilities. Education is for people to have confidence. Education should be for people to have to become wise. So I think that kind of education is very, very important. Again, the kind of importance that we give to science and mathematics and computer science and coding, yeah, these days, and artificial intelligence and so on, equal importance has to be given to literature, to our culture, to history, to geography, to social studies, to our governance and taxes. I find many people, especially youngsters, who are, who cannot even answer basic questions about our Indian polity, our governance. If you go and ask probably a 12th guy or this one, how many seats are there in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? How does it work? How does a bill get passed? I have my doubts as to how many people can answer it intelligently. But again, these are again difficult questions to answer. And this is something that we have to be aware of. The last slide, please. Next one. Finally, this is my last one. After that, we'll open up for discussions. What India? We are a country. We have boundaries. We have states. We have everything. But India is actually a concept, and that Indianness doesn't come only with a passport or a document which says that I'm an Indian or India. I think it comes through our ethics and value systems. I think finally it boils down to that. The Vice President of Kamala Harris, right? She says, "I have, cheers to my atheis and Athimbers," when she won the election. She is an American, but there is some Indianness there. There is something which creeps in, right, in terms of ethics and value systems. So this is something that champions hold it very dearly. They understand that what makes a champion is what is unique about them. What is so unique about us is our value systems and our culture. I think this is what is the final distinction which makes or breaks where we are going, whether we remain challengers entirely or whether we start holding and embracing our culture and our ethics and saying that, what, I'm going to use this and I'm going to be very proud about it. So understanding and living our heritage, unfortunately, again, Western colonization, our difficult history in terms of invasions and foreign forces, and how it has played into our national psyche, right, is something that we should be aware about, and we should overcome all that. I think even today, I think most of our new education policy is touching upon it in terms of how it is being approached. But there is something that we should be very proud about, and especially in this, being responsible and improving our individual and social intellectual wealth. I think a lot of our intellectual wealth is hidden. And this is very, very important for champions to unleash their wealth and potential from there. Very important point I want to touch about between many years of our society and our civilization and today's present scenario is sustainable consumerism versus responsible production. This is again, it's a purely a value system driven question, a value system driven thought process that our society has to answer. Today, sustainability is becoming a big challenge across industries, across societies. But as a society, India had understood this long ago. Our ancients and our ancestors understood this long ago in terms of sustainable consumerism. How to reuse, how to not over consume, right? In the name of freedom of capital, how to not overproduce. This is happening everywhere, right from plastic, right from water, groundwater usage, right? Everything happens to become about my lifetime. How am I going to enjoy? Rather than looking at what am I leaving for my future generations. Not only in terms of their wealth, but in terms of what kind of value systems am I leaving. Because many of the previous three things, military, defense, society, governance, all these are documented. All these ethics and values, how much ever you document it, you can't learn it. It comes through parenting. It comes through role modeling. So I always say this, ethics and values cannot be taught in a class. Ethics and values are actually taught in a family. The parents become role models for their children. The gurus become role models for their children. My boss becomes a role model for the ethics that he follows. I write an ethics statement on a website, or I write an ethics statement on a piece of paper, doesn't make it 100% ethical. My behavior makes me 100% ethical. I think this is something that will define again our way forward in terms of being a challenger of this one, because we have to challenge ourselves, especially in this. Again, a difficult point to ask: is our principles defining our politics, or is our politics defining our principles? Right? This again goes back to that fundamental question of my ethics and values. Do we do the right thing, or will we do everything rightly? Right? Because sometimes doing the right thing is very difficult. But there's a reason why it is called the right thing. So this is something that will actually present a moral dilemma. That some things are easy to do, some things are popular to do. Ethics and values has, there is no competition between ethics and values and popularity. Popularity always wins hands down. You go and tell a person, how many people are honest? How many people will return rupee which is found on? I don't know. But the question is, it is never a competition between popular and this one. So this is something, again, champions don't need the urge to be popular. Champions are guys who do the right thing. And I think as a society, as a country, this presents one of our biggest opportunity to be the leader in the world. That you cannot mess with us in terms of who we are, what we are as a value system and as a culture. Because that's what defines us. So the last slide, do you have anything? So I have another 5 minutes to go. I love Mahatma. He's one of my favorite strategists. I call him a strategist because he was one. Of course, he won freedom and everything, but he says, champions are made deeply from something internal inside them, right? A desire, a dream, and a vision. Champions are not made because of the race. Champions are not defined by their competition. A champion is a champion even if he's the only guy playing, right? A champion is a champion. That's it. So somebody came and once asked me, sir, will it matter what the competition is? I said, as for a champion, the competition is only himself. He wants to better himself. Because once we are there in that position of saying that, it doesn't matter. I want to be a better version of what I was yesterday. I think we are already there. But it's a mental state to be, and it's not easy because you can't fake it. The problem is there will be a lot of challengers. A challenger can fake it. He can come well dressed. He will wear a shoe. He will come ready and everything because he looks like a challenger. But a champion cannot fake it. A champion is a champion. So that is something that we have to have deep inside of us, that desire. That's not about winning others. The desire is to win me. I have to win over myself. I think that is what makes a champion. That desire, that dream to be a better version than yesterday. If I can be a better version than yesterday, if my state can be a better version than yesterday, if my country can be a better version than yesterday, if my company can be a better version than yesterday, if my family can be a better version than yesterday. And finally, a vision. See, this is what champions are made of. They are not worried about how they live. They are worried about how will my future live? How will my family live? How will my country live? How will my company live? How will my society live? I think when we start living for others, champion is not a guy who wins it because he wants a gold medal. A champion comes and says, remember that javelin throw champion? He was so happy. He said, I did it for India. So he didn't do because he wanted a gold medal. He wanted to win it for a country. When selfishness will limit us, in our approach, challenges will always be saying that I want to be the champion, but a champion will say, I want to win it for somebody else. So I stopped it there. I hope I was on time, Major Bhargav. It's 55 minutes. I was 5 minutes early. So I hope it was okay. I'll leave it open. Thank you. Any thoughts, any views? I think you should allow others to talk.
Yes, Major Bhargav, you can go on, sir. You're online.
Thank you. Good evening to all. Karthi, you made me humble by both your words and action. Action, the moment I called you up and said, Karthi, there is a requirement of a good speaker for a very nice forum, very good forum. Without that uttering its breath, you said, yes, sir, I'll do it. That was one, the first moment of my gratitude. And second was today when you started the session, you said such wonderful words about me. I really feel that I'm elated and I feel in the seventh heaven. Thank you so much, Karthi. See, you told me you mentioned about my age. Age defies you too. And I still remember you. You were no bigger or no older than a teenager or an adolescent when we were working together in Ramshaw. And from where we have come, you are the country head of TCS in Taiwan. Great achiever. Karthi, I salute you. Wonderful. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Karthi, since you are based in Taiwan and I'm a little curious to know about what is happening there. So there are two parts. The first one is, what has India done to establish good relations with Taiwan, and also what it is doing to sustain it and improve upon it, first thing. Second thing, in the light of developments in Afghanistan, geopolitics and strategical developments, both America and China are vying with each other to come to Taiwan, establish their control over there or supremacy there or whatever. So, but the Taiwanese are fiercely self-reliant, and they very, very boldly and courageously say, we will not bow down to China. We will not seek any kind of assistance from US. So being on the ground, what is your view on that, Karthi?
So, sir, and for the benefit of others, the historical antagonism between the government of Taiwan and the Communist Party in mainland has been going on for a long time, right? And today, to your first point, I'll answer these two questions. The first point is what India has done for better relations with Taiwan. I think many things are being done very quietly. Okay, the business between India and Taiwan has grown tremendously. Okay, but until about 20 years ago, okay, these are unfortunate realities of life, which I keep telling my Taiwanese friends as well, that because of the unique sovereign nature of Taiwan, right? It's not a recognized country. It is recognized only by 16 countries in the world, okay, as a sovereign nation. But of course, it's a unique, independently operating country, right? Because of whatever geopolitical pressures, Taiwan is getting isolated. But you see this, there is a huge Indian business community in Singapore, massive Indian community in Indonesia, massive Indian community in Malaysia, phenomenal Indian settlement in Hong Kong, right? Business settlement. South Korea, we are doing business for 20 years now, 25 years now. Japan, we do business. Philippines, we do business. But suddenly in between, the Taiwan is always missed out, right? There are two reasons for this. One is, even Taiwan did not, only in the last 20 years, they understood the importance of India, right? And the reason primarily is language. Okay, one of the biggest challenges that comes in this one is Indians are very good in English. Okay, so we kind of understood that we can work with the world. But unfortunately or fortunately, Taiwan dependent only on the US for their business goals, rest being Japan and mainland China. So that was the challenge. But a lot of things are happening. Business has grown very, very well. Now to your second question, with what is happening across the world, I think this is a very, very tricky time, because the South China Sea, right, there's a lot of activity which is happening, right? Because these are trade routes. What is happening is Afghanistan is becoming a land-based trade route for the Middle Eastern oil. Okay, that is a choke point. You will know the importance of that strait, right? That choke point becomes a very, very critical part. That's why the piracy is becoming a problem with Iran, Afghanistan, and this one. That choke point becomes a problem, and with America and this one being active, and with multiple things happening both at the eastern and the western side for mainland China, I think you will find a lot more hanky-panky going around. But there is a legislative act in the US which demands the US to defend Taiwan in case of a problem. Okay, it's a legislative act in the US Congress. So, but it will not come to that. I think saner minds will prevail. Okay, because people know that everybody has too much to lose, right? You might have seen this global chip shortage is happening now, right? because Taiwan is the world's leader manufacturing of chips. And suddenly you find that this global supply chain is getting constrained. And a small thing, and you find Maruti Suzuki cars and other cars are getting lined up for 10 months delivery, 12 months delivery, right? So, but this is something again, sir, strategically 25 years, mainland China has made inroads into every part of the global supply chain, and everybody understands that. So the question is not about the people there, but how it's going to happen, and what pressures are there, and we'll have to just wait and see how that operates. Thank you, Major.
Thank you, Karthi. That was very well explained. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any other questions? Either I was very clear or nobody understood anything, so I can understand that.
We invite all the members of the other forum, members of the forum present to open up and ask your queries.
Feel free. Yeah.
Ask your
Even if there
queries
are no
and,
questions, even if you have any inputs, or I would like to learn from you all.
Please feel free to share your thoughts and express them out here. Thank you. Okay, so Prasanna, are you online?
Hi, good evening all. Hi, Mr. Karthikeyan.
Hi.
It was very high opening session you shared us, and it was really aspect session about you were speaking about the championship in everyone's life, right? So definitely it takes more motivation to everyone, saying that be always champion yourself so that you can deliver a lot of things in life as well as for the country. So it was very a nice point at the end as well as from the every slide you make everyone as very active and very inspiring. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasanna. Appreciate that.
Okay, so with the permission of everybody over here, if there is anybody else who would like to share their thoughts or express their opinion, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I think unfortunately many people are a little worried today because the India Test match got over just now. So people are really not in a mood to come and say anything. So I understand that, guys. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay.
We are champions. Yeah, don't worry. You tend to lose one Test match, will win the series. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so with the permission of the forum, I'll take this opportunity to thank Mr. Karthi Madhavan for spending his very valuable time and sharing his perspective across, not only across India, but across the world and how the world views India. I really like the way you were able to put across both sides of the presentations, not just from one side, but what could be the opinion of the people from the other side. So those two coins of the the two sides of the coin was something that you had, I think, very which you had expressed and which you had conveyed very clearly over here. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you. And I look forward to coming soon. I think this COVID has everybody's tired of COVID now, and I'm really tired of COVID. It's 1.5 years since I came to my motherland, and my family lives still in Bangalore. So I am waiting for an opportunity to come there, and hopefully I'll meet all of you. But I'm definitely going to meet Major Bhargav. I already told that. Yes. We are going out for a nice, good evening of fun together. So I will look forward to that happening very soon. Yeah. Sure, thank you so much.
We hope.
Thank you,
talk
Major
soon.
Bhargav. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Patros, and my thanks to Shiv Prasad as well.
We will. He's seeing this. He is seeing this program. So yes,
Okay.
he'll definitely reply to you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
and
so
with
much.
that, sir, we end this session on the 80th session. And thank you really very much. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to keeping in touch and taking this further for another round of discussion again later.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everybody. Thank you.